You can share this screen now.
It says after the meeting you can find this recording in there, and
Yeah.
then
And you can
when I
share
finish,
the screen.
when I finish, should I say got it? Is it?
Yeah.
Hi. Okay, I can start.
Share the screen with the students.
Hello.
Ms. Nadeja, you can share the screen with the students.
Yes. So I'm just opening my file. Vidya.
Yes, Ms. Nadeja.
Make it right, share screen. Okay. Yes. Can you see the screen?
No, bottom line, you will be seeing desktop and all the thing. Please click on desktop.
Yeah. Okay.
Then again, there will be a picture, and then you can click on the picture and share. Okay, we can see your
Now can you see
Yes.
the PowerPoint presentation on the screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Okay,
Hi
you can.
students, are you all there?
Yeah, we are here. But I'm not sure.
Okay, good afternoon. Yesterday we looked at how to identify a problem and starting from what is research, and we looked at say what sections you should have when you present your literature review, right? Sorry, when you present your research problem. So today we are looking at say what is a literature review and how you should present your literature review. Okay, so right. So once again, revisiting what we have looked at yesterday, I hope you remember, we discussed about two approaches to research. What were they?
Inductive and deductive research.
Very good. Inductive and deductive research. Deductive research starts from where?
Deductive research starts from, as I remember, wait. It starts from theory.
Yes, correct. And it goes on to say applying the theory into your context. So it starts from theory, you develop your hypothesis, and then you finally confirm the theory. Sometimes you may find that the theory is applicable or not applicable. So you come to confirmation whether it's say applicable to this or not, right? So that is deductive approach. What is inductive approach?
Inductive approach is like you are focusing on more specific area.
Yes, correct.
Starts with some kind of observation and find patterns, and you are developing some theory based on
it. Yes, you're right. Okay. So before we proceed, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. If you look at this topic, can you suggest an approach, inductive or deductive? I'll explain a bit on this. The
Okay.
student wants to see, right, whether, say, companies, when they recruit people, the screening process that they have in identifying the correct candidate, right, is correct. So is adequate or is appropriate. In other words, he is looking at, say, whether the mechanisms they have in detecting and preventing the applicant faking behavior in this recruitment selection. What you mean by faking behavior is where you see that applicant can, say, for example, present very well in the interview and talk about say, skills and capabilities which he or she may not actually possess, right? So in that case, if such an applicant is, say, recruited, ultimately, when the company realizes that correct person is not recruited, then of course they have, say, chosen the wrong applicant, wrong, say, person. So then again, say, it is loss of time and loss of resources of the company, because again, recruitment selection has to be taken.
Yeah.
So, what kind of approach do you suggest?
Since it's like a on some kind of specific behavior we go through, so I think more appropriate is inductive.
Inductive, correct, right? So it is an inductive research. How do you think you can conduct this?
First, need to identify some kind of like representative sample
Very
from
good. So,
scale.
whom do you think will be appropriate respondents for this?
Maybe HR managers or
Very good. Very
specialists.
good. Yeah, those recruitment managers, HR managers, and the research started with, say, you can see warning instructions, faking resistant tests, and so on. So some of these things actually in this research were found not done in, say, our country, or say modified because of certain cultural reasons in our country, right? Or not applied in a very strict manner sometimes, okay? So then accordingly, we have to modify it to show what is happening here, understand? So that's a typical inductive approach, okay? So if I take you down, say, something like this.
Success factors of customer loyalty for the fashion retail store. Kelly filter. This is also again with specific customer. Uh, this is also quite
Hmm?
because the
Inductive or deductive? Who are your respondents?
uh, uh, customers of Kelly felt
Ah, very good. Customers of Kelkelter, very good. So, is it a small sample or a large sample?
this is small sample.
Oh, is it really? You
Uh,
find just 10-15 people going to Kelkelter to buy fashion clothing? Huh?
sorry.
Do you find only 10-15 people going to Kelkelter to buy fashion clothing?
But if you like get the overall fashion chain, this is not regarding overall fashion chain. This is specific customer Kelly felt.
Yeah, no. I mean, when you look at the customer base of Kellyfelder, do you find it's a small sample? It's a small population?
No, not really.
No. Ah, right. There you are. Right. So you get the hint there. So, and again, when you look at customer loyalty, you find a lot of theories. Okay, you
Yeah.
find a lot of say research already available about customer loyalty, and what you have to think about is how you can contextualize it, or how you can apply the theory to the specific context, which is the chosen organization Kellyfelder. So you have to think about, say, customer satisfaction and keeping in trend, for example, trustworthiness, that is providing the products that they actually say, say, for example, the quality, what they talk about is actually there in the products, right? So, and customer relationships management. So you can see how well it is customized, sorry, it is contextualized here. If you look at this, you can see it's the same old customer loyalty, but it's talking about network quality, customer support, and so on, and value addition, updating technology, sales promotion, and so on. So you can see it's both customer loyalty here and there, but this is talking about fashion trend, and this is talking about network quality. So you see it's the same theory, but you have to know how to contextualize the theory to the chosen context. Understand?
Mm.
So it is deductive, but of course, if you say you want to mix it with qualitative input as well, say you can conduct a survey with the say customers of Kellyfelder, and you can conduct interviews with the management of Kellyfelder, asking the management, okay, you know, how do you keep the customers loyal, and asking the customers what makes you loyal. Okay, so then you have two perspectives to join and make your research, right? So, however, you are mainly having a clear deductive approach. Okay, is it applied research or basic research?
This is applied research.
Very good. What about this?
This is basic research.
Basic research. Okay, so you have to know these things, because when you know, then it's easy for you to screen a topic that you have chosen, because then you have an understanding of what your population is and who should be your respondents, and in that case how big your sample size should be and all that. One more example. Inductive or deductive?
This one, Sri Lanka's family-run business. This is I think that this one inductive.
Inductive, right? Yes, very good. Inductive, because it looks very specific.
Yeah.
And we don't have, like, say, I don't know, when you look at, say, organizations which run from, say, second generation to third generation, well established organization, I mean, I don't think we have hundreds of them to have large samples.
Yeah.
And at the same time, the way things happen in Sri Lanka, it could be very unique. It could be, very unique to the Sri Lankan way of doing things. So it's inductive, right? So I hope now you have again strengthened your understanding about the approaches that we have. So, okay. Right, let me ask you about say an easy topic to give me. Okay, right here. What are you going to write for the background of this research? Yeah. What do you think you can write for the background of this research?
like importance of the customer loyalty for
Very
the
good. Very good. Importance of the customer loyalty,
the business.
and then specifically narrowing it down
To
to the
fashion.
fashion retail industry. Here,
Mm,
can you hear me?
yeah, yeah.
Then, what do you think you can write in the research problem? Now, you will ask, okay, Kellyfeld has uh, developed its customer loyalty over the years, and it has spreaded with branches uh, from Colombo to various other places. So, what are you studying? There is no problem with them. What do you mean by research problem? Okay,
Oh,
right? So, what I what I mean by research problem here is that um, you are looking at a success story and you're studying the success factors behind their story. Okay, still that can be identified as a research problem. Do you get it?
yeah. Mm.
Right? And then what you can do is, okay, you can say this is about, say, fashion retail business, and then you say this is the Kellyfelder and how Kellyfelder has developed and spreaded its branches, say, over the last few years. And you can also give a few say findings from say casually asking a few say Kellyfelder customers, okay, what do you think about their clothing and what do you think about do you feel like, say, you're always going there to buy clothing, kind of loyalty do you have? So likewise you can say, okay, when you look at other fashion retailers who have been there even prior to them, how they have, how within a short period of time, Kellyfelder has, maybe nearly a decade, but they have well established. But I mean, so what's the secret behind this? That's what you're going to study here. So you have to explain how they have uh, developed and how, say, what you observe as their specific actions towards keeping the customers loyal. So therefore, you're having topic here to go into and search what are their, say, secrets behind having a customer loyalty and developing a loyal customer base within a short period of time. So that's what you have to write in the research problem.
So
Okay.
then there we can we can highlight some comparison between who our
Absolutely.
yeah.
Very good. Yeah, yeah. Very good. So then, what do you think you can write as the objectives of this research?
So the basically identifying the success.
Very good. To identify the factors that affect, say, customer loyalty, right? And then analyze the factors that affect customer loyalty towards Kerryfeder, and then provide recommendations based on the findings. Okay.
Mm.
Then, what do you think you can write as justification?
Mm. So kind of industry analysis
Yeah, you can say, just look at whether there are any studies done on, say, loyalty of customers towards any fashion retail outlets in Sri Lanka, right? And you can also see that this industry is developing in Sri Lanka. So therefore, a research is needed, say, for fashion retailers to understand what customers expect from them, and in order to keep the customers loyal. So that's why such a research is needed. Okay, that's the way you can justify. It's very good if you can indicate a couple of local research, say that is done on fashion retail industry, maybe perhaps not particularly looking at this aspect, but then you can say, okay, because of the same reason, it serves the industry as well, which you can point out in your significance as the academic significance. And practical significance is where you, okay, your findings will be beneficial for not only Kelly Felder specifically, but to the industry as well, and any potential say entrepreneur who would like to have a fashion retail outlet. Okay, so
Is there, uh,
sorry.
is there any like any website available local research to study or kind of like that?
Not really, not really. When you search, you will have to key in the keyword Sri Lanka and also search.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only way that you can find. I will share a link with you, which you can get a few other articles also. I will share it with you. Right. So that's about how you can say write your 5 parts of the research, first chapter of the dissertation, including the background, the research problem, the aim and the objectives, justification, and the significance. Okay, so now what we're going to do today is to look in more detail to the very first objective, that's the literature review. Okay, so what we're going to do in a literature review is our focus today. So let's see. So now you must be having some kind of an understanding as to why you do a literature review. So mainly it's because it helps you to identify the factors that you should consider in your research. And not only that, you can see, say, other benefits like, say, it helps you to improve your methodology and make you understand the subject area better, because sometimes as you go on reading you might even think of say shaping your research problem towards a slightly different direction, because
Yeah.
the actual problem is not what you initially thought. Okay, right? So likewise, it actually helps you to improve your understanding, and you can also learn how to contextualize your findings. For example, now you saw two different research on customer loyalty, one about mobile telecommunication industry and the other one about fashion retail industry. I mean, we may not find say theoretical models particularly say aiming at any one of those two industries, but we should be smart to apply the theory correctly to the chosen context, which is say possible by looking at empirical findings. That's where you can look at journal articles where people have found various factors and see how those factors can be given an underpinning or an outline with the theories. Okay, so that's what we're going to do today. So starting from say academic work, or what we do as researchers, we find that well, we can read what others have published and we can critically analyze them. We can write our own interpretation about them, and or else we can apply them into our research and write our own findings. So that's how the research process goes on. So what you find in a literature review is where, it's not something where you write everything that you know. You have to be very selective, because as you know that you have a limited word count, so you should be smart to find and summarize to the expected level, uh, uh, and show the most relevant, say, literature related to the topic. Okay, so, and as you go on, you will find that, uh, say, when you read more, it's like, say, you say, for example, you start off looking at leadership. Now, that sounds quite broad. So, when you look at leadership in more detail, you find, say, leadership styles, for example, transformational leadership, transactional leadership, and laissez-faire leadership. Again, you look at leadership in a different way, you find something called ethical leadership. So you find, okay, what should an ethical leader possess? Then you find again another way, there's something called dark leadership. So what is that? So you go on filling this broad patch, and with, say, pieces of a puzzle like. So that's how your reading helps you to get an idea about the broader picture, which ultimately helps you to screen out the topics that you actually should relate to your topic and present your literature review in the proper manner. So that's a broader idea about what is expected and what you should do. So,
So if we the,
sorry?
so
Yeah.
if we take like usually literature means we are like reading someone's earlier
Yes.
research, previous research.
Yes.
So but it's around maybe sometimes 10 to 14 page. So what
Hmm.
part we need to more
Yes.
emphasize?
Good question. Good question. Now, when you look at a journal article, let's say, right? Uh, First of all, read the abstract. Okay,
Oh,
right? What do you think an abstract gives you? Do you know? An
summary. Like,
yeah, summary. Very good. Abstract contains, now in your dissertation, when you complete your dissertation, also you have to have an abstract. So, abstract basically tells you three things. One is, because when you look at research, there are different types of research also. Some research is called reviews, some are, say, studies, where review is where some researchers look at only, say, available literature and analyze them and present their own analysis, whereas they don't collect data from samples, but they're only reviewing what is available. Whereas, say, if you look at research, which is not only review but doing your own study as well, that kind of literature or journal articles, you will find three things in the abstract mainly. What it is about. Okay, so say for example, you're looking at the consumer's behavior towards whatever, and then it talks about how it has been done. For example, say whether it's an inductive approach or a deductive approach, or how much your sample size has been. Have you analyzed it using statistics? Likewise, how have you done the research? And thirdly, what was found? Right? So these are the three things that you generally find in an abstract. So once again, what is it about? How has it been done? The methodology, and what was found, the findings, in other words. So that actually gives you a good understanding about what the research is and lets you know whether you should say read the article in more detail. Okay, that's one. Then the next step that you can do is just glance through the article and see what main topics it has. Okay, say sometimes when you look at the literature review, you may find very important theories for your research also can be identified in certain journal articles. So likewise, you can say just go through, not reading in detail, just just browsing or glancing through the topics that are being covered. And you can of course see how depth the statistical analysis has gone into and likewise. Then uh, look at a bit more detail into the conclusions. That also uh, helps you because or else in other words the findings, okay, what has been found, so that you can see to what extent this study should be read in more detail or should be referred to in your research. So again, if you are looking forward for research topics, as particularly in basic research type, you can, if you're having some broad area in mind, when you read research articles, you find suggesting areas for further research. Okay, so those also give an indication about what possible, say, topics that you can consider in your research. Is it very clear?
Yeah.
Right. So that's how you can say look into in more detail. So these are
So do we need to check their conceptual framework also?
of course, yes, because that's where you can get an idea what variables they have considered in the study. That's what I said. Go through at a glance. You know, is just browsing through what is the conceptual framework, what theories. Likewise, not reading in detail, but when you look at the topics, you can see whether it makes say it appears to be useful to you. Okay.
Okay.
Right. So right. So as I said, you can generate your own research ideas, and you can look at how they have done, whether their methodology can be applied to yours, and likewise. So as I said, you can uh, bring clarity and focus to your research, because when you read, you can see sometimes, okay, my research, I'm looking at customer loyalty, right? Okay, I haven't thought about an industry, so you can bring focus to your research by reading, and as I said, the methodology, and see how others have applied the theories to their research. That's where you can say contextualizing the findings. So I have just given a bit more detailed discussions there. So to start doing a literature review, when you search, you can initially have a few, say, keywords to search, right? So for example, I'm looking at, say, leadership styles. So my keyword is leadership styles, so that I can see what people have done and what theories are there in that. Okay. Say if you are looking at a particular industry, for example, give that as a secondary, say, search word, right? So that you can find, okay, what people have done about leadership in a particular industry as well. So that's how you can go on searching for literature. So because of the same reason, you can find here, you start off broad, right? So you have a broad idea in mind, and then okay, now if I start off with leadership, like I'm looking at leadership style, so I can just say leadership theories and look for, then later on I find, okay, I can look at leadership styles, or else I can look at what I mean by dark leadership or ethical leadership, various diversions of the broad idea, and then I search again under what I have say I have selected out of the broad picture, and then again within that, if I can further narrow down how it applies with a certain industry, then again I can look at whether there are journal articles looking at it, for example, and go on like that. Okay, so that's where you start broad and then gradually become more focused. Okay, so uh, these are basic things that you can consider. Say, for example, as I said, what am I looking at? Say, for example, I want to look at how the leadership styles affect the organizational performance. So I have two keywords: leadership style, organizational performance. Okay, so then I can search literature using these two words, so that I can see what theories are there, what articles are there, connecting the two sides. Okay, so now when you look at literature, you find that literature are found in these three different sources. So now what you mean by primary literature is where you find the researcher um, himself or herself has published the or researchers as a group have published a report, or it could be a thesis that is being published, right? Or say specific say survey findings. Now for example, say you find a central bank annual report, that's a primary literature, because that's being published by that body or the organization. Whereas if you see journals or books or newspapers, you find many authors, right, have published in the same source. Okay, if you look at tertiary literature, these are, say, sources which directs you to find uh, where you can find the literature, right? So, say databases or indexes, encyclopedias. You find where to find the literature through them. Okay, so what I want again to point out with this is many students in their dissertations, when they write their methodology, they say they have collected primary data and secondary data. So when you say primary data, that means the data that is collected for that specific study. For example, you conduct interviews and collect your data, or else you distribute your own questionnaire and collect your data. That is what you mean by primary data. You collect it for your own work.
Yeah.
What you mean by secondary data is data that is available with another body or another source, where you think you can use it for your study, right? So say for example, you collect data what is already available with the census and statistics department, and then you will have to see how you can use it. So that is that is the secondary data. Now, students say when they write the methodology section, they say that I have used primary data and secondary data. My primary data is the data that I have collected using my questionnaire. My secondary data is what I have read in the journals. That is wrong. It's not secondary data, it's secondary source of literature. Okay, right? So this, what you mean by primary literature is something else. What you mean by primary data is something else. Secondary literature and secondary data, they're not the same. Okay. So now that's again something that you have to have a clear idea about. Okay. Now here again the same thing, generate keywords, parameters, and then go searching. I will just discuss how to present these things in your literature review once again with some examples, right? So not that when you search literature you have to have all the parameters. As I said, if you go search for leadership styles, for example, then you find say whatever literature that is there. You can also ask for literature only to be shown within the last 10 years. You can give the duration. Okay, so generally when you look for theories, now say for example Porter's 5-force model as a theory has been found say about 40 years, 50 years back perhaps. However, when you write and present your literature review, you may have heard that you're required to bring current literature or findings that are say made in the recent past. So then you have a big problem. Okay, Porter's 5-force model or Maslow's hierarchy of needs theory, these are say well-known theories in the particular subject areas, but just because they are too old, are we not going to look at them, right? Answer is where you have understood the requirement in the wrong way, right? When you look at theories, you should not screen the time, right? Say if they are theories, well, you can't have say 10 theories only found within the last 10 years. But of course, you find sometimes certain theories are being revised later on. You find revisions. Now, popular theory called technology acceptance model, you find later on there are revisions. So, if you can find the latest revision of these theories, then of course good. But otherwise, don't have a time frame for the theories. But with respect to empirical findings, yes, it's better if you can limit it to the last 10 years or last 15 years because, say, for example, you're looking at what factors affect the customer loyalty in the fashion retail industry, and you bring in a journal article that was published, say, in another country about 40 years back. It doesn't make, perhaps it doesn't make much sense because the conditions now after 40 years is quite different. So when you're looking at journal articles say with specific say studies made on the same chosen say subject area or the chosen industry for your research, limit it to the recent past, ideally maybe 10 years or 15 years from now. So you can look at say 2010 or latest by 2000 earliest by 2005 as the cutoff point with respect to the journal articles. Okay. Then how you present your literature, right? I will come to this. Sometimes students come and tell me, okay, I have been reading now. My head is about to burst because I have read too much. So what am I going to do? I'm completely confused, right? So that happens when you go on reading without trying to summarize what you have already read. Okay. So a good idea is to see what you have read in an overall picture. So what I'm trying to show you now is one way of doing that, which actually is helpful when you're presenting your literature review chapter also, because then you can look at what are the most appropriate subject headings or the subheadings or topics that you can have in your literature review, right? So now this is an example, right? So here you can see whatever that has been read has been summarized under specific themes or specific topics, and then looking at what the conclusions or the main findings were, and what environment it has been focused on, and say what method it has used, right? So likewise, not necessary that you have to have the same headings according to the chosen topic. You can think about what are the most appropriate headings that you can have to summarize your findings, so that it will be very helpful for you to write your literature. Otherwise, we are all human beings. If you read 10 articles, you will be looking at, okay, what can I get out of all 10, right? So this is one way that you can, make your findings more organized. Then another one is relevance trees. Okay. This is where you present again your findings with the main headings, the subheadings, and even smaller headings. So see here, you can see the big headings and then how each heading can split into further headings and smaller headings likewise, so that you can again get an understanding as to how you can present your literature in your dissertation, what kind of topic order you can follow when presenting your literature review. Then you can see what sections you have in your literature review, right? Now, I said yesterday, when you're having your chapter 1, you have to look into these 5 sections, which I revised today when I started the lecture. So likewise, in your literature review also, try to have these sections. One, you give a small introduction saying what it is about and what the whole chapter contains. Now here, a lot of students make the mistake. They, in the introduction, they write once again about the research problem. They write again the background that has been produced in the research problem. Say, for example, we were looking at the example of loyalty with respect to the fashion retail industry. They again in the introduction write how important a fashion retailer should keep a loyal customer base, right? That's not needed because it's discussed once, so you don't have to discuss that once again here. Then what is your introduction? Your introduction is where you briefly describe what the chapter contains, right? And you generally have to use present tense here, not future tense. I'll explain that again. You can say this chapter presents the theoretical models on leadership styles and the empirical findings specifically on how leadership styles are applicable in various industries. And further, towards the end of the chapter, a critical review of literature is presented. That's all. That's what is expected here. So if you want to make it a bit more detailed, well, that's fine. But it's not writing the background to the problem or how important loyalty or how important it is in fashion retail industry or telecommunication industry or whatever is not what you're expected to write here. Right. So once again, why I said the present tense is because students write this chapter will contain, this chapter will have a theory or the discussion about the theories. Don't use that because that's future tense. Say that this chapter presents or this chapter contains or this chapter provides a discussion about whatever like that. Is it clear?
Yes.
Um, then you have the body of your literature review. This body contains mainly three parts, right? One is the theories. Then you have the right here I have given what is introduction and then the body. The body part has two main sections, rather three main sections. One is it should give theories. Okay, whatever the theories. Now you're talking about, say, motivation. Can you give me a few theories?
Motivation factors. Motivation.
What theories have you studied under HR? You must have studied HR, am I right?
Yeah. Motivators and like health.
What are the theories? What are the theories you have studied under
Mass.
very good. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Then
Cannot recall.
Herzberg's two-factor theories. Have you studied? McGregor's XY theory. Have you studied?
XY theory cannot remember.
Yeah. Room's expectancy theory. Have you studied?
Expectancy. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have quite a lot of theories. Okay. So you can look at these theories. Okay, one by one, right? And then you can look at empirical findings. That means those research that people like you all or people who are researchers have attempted to apply them to various industries or various contexts, right? And what they have found. Then you discuss those and then you make a critical review. That is where you discuss based on what you have looked at in the literature review, what have you got to say, right? In other words, a literature review doesn't mean that you only discuss what has been done. You also have to say what have you got to say about it and why you choose certain topics for your study, based on what conditions do you choose those topics for your study. Likewise, your interpretation and your ideas about the specific factors that you're going to choose for your study based on the theories and based on the findings should be also given. So that's what you mean by the critical review with the analysis and comparisons. Okay. So it has three sections within the body, right? You have the theories, you have the empirical findings, you have to have your critical review. in your literature review section, and then you write the conclusion. You can say, overall, what have you discussed and what factors you think are chosen for your further study, right? So that's how the literature review is organized. Now, when you read journal articles, you may find slight deviations from what I have said, because some researchers say just present literature in chronological order based on, let's say, the publication date, the latest, and then the next latest publication one by one, based on each author they give sometimes. What I have discussed with you is the thematic, where you give the main topic and the subtopics. Some can also look at it this way, okay, how have people applied different methods to do the study? So how have people looked at it when they collect data using questionnaires, when they do it using say secondary data, how have they done likewise? That is also there, but in your case we usually follow this second one, the thematic way of presentation. Okay, so I will just give you a brief idea about what is a critical review, and then uh, discuss some examples, because that's the way that you can understand better. Okay, so a critical review means your own idea about what factors you should choose for your study, and based on what criteria, what conditions, why do you think you should use one factor and not the other, likewise. Okay, so now I'll just stop here for a moment and come back again after discussing a few examples. Up to this point, I mean, you may not have sometimes developed a clear idea because I haven't discussed examples. So towards the end, if you are still not clear, please raise questions. Have you done the referencing? Can you hear me?
We have for 5 months, but it's better if you can clear it again.
Okay. Have you done the Harvard referencing, the academic writing, all that? Have you?
I think they have done it in quite rush schedule. It's like not done in detailed manner.
Okay. Right. Okay. I'll open this research also. right, this is the topic. Just look at the topic for a minute. Now, what this student wants to study is how the customer life cycle management can affect the customer loyalty in the credit card industry. So, I've been talking a lot about customer loyalty, but you can see this is a different story altogether. Why? Why do you think it's different? Can you tell me? Can you hear me?
Can hear.
Yeah. So here, why do you think it's different
Because
from
this
the
is
previous?
customer life cycle management.
Yes, you're right. So you're looking at customer life cycle management in more focus, and you're trying to see how that affects the customer loyalty. And particularly, you're looking at it in the credit card industry. So I would say this is a good topic because a lot of people have done research about what makes people use credit cards and what credit card promotions can promote people to use the credit card, and likewise that kind of research you find. But this is a topic that I found that has not been much research, so I would say it's a good topic. Right. So starting on with the literature, I said you have to first of all, right, give an introduction. Oh, I just skipped off one point in the body. Give definitions. Okay, I should have discussed it here in the body. Please indicate that. Okay, here, here,
Yeah.
right. Here I didn't stress on this one, right? I have said here in the PowerPoint,
Yeah.
you have to have definitions, so that also is important. Okay, so I'll skip to this example again. So this student has defined the keywords. One is what is a credit card, right? Very simply, don't write too much. What do you mean by customer loyalty? What do you mean by customer life cycle? Okay, because those are the keywords that you find in this research. Is it clear to you?
Yeah.
Now, this identification of the keywords is very important. Why? Because you have to use them to search your literature. Understand?
Yeah.
When you don't know what is customer life cycle management and you find some other literature, obviously it is irrelevant. Okay, so you have to know that your keyword in searching literature is one loyalty, the other one life cycle. Okay, so now you have defined your customer life cycle as well, and then here you can see you're explaining the theories about loyalty, because you're having loyalty as your dependent variable, right? So then you come to talk about theories which are related to customer life cycle management. Okay, so you have one theory called customer journey map, another one called customer experience cycle, another one called life cycle management analysis, and another theory. Then you look at, okay, what have these theories told you? Understand? Okay, this is your view, your own interpretation, your own thinking. Okay. Clear?
Yeah.
Right? So you're looking at, okay, you see in the columns there are theories, then you have these as the key aspects that have been covered in the theories. So you look at, okay, you find when you look at all the theories, product awareness, customer engagement, customer experience, and so on are there in the theories. Okay, so that's what you mean. What I said as looking at a critical analysis. Okay, now here you see the dissertation that I was talking about, right? So you see, say these are the concepts that were discussed, and then somewhere down here, right? So here I will show you the now you can see, okay, you develop your conceptual framework, okay,
Yeah.
through that. Okay,
Yeah.
so here you can see you analyze this, and this is made use of to develop this. Understand?
Yeah.
Okay, that's where you connect the theories. Otherwise, what happens is students just write theories one after another, but they don't know how to use them to develop the conceptual framework, whereas the conceptual framework presents some lot of variables. No one knows from where they are being pulled out. So the two sides are not connected. There is a crack in the dissertation because the chapter 2 and conceptual framework is not connected. Understand? So that's what I mean by analyzing theories. Now, what do I mean by empirical findings, right? Here you can see relevance of literature to the aim of the study. The student has tried to connect the literature. So that is very important after analyzing the theories. Okay. So this is a good example where you can understand how, say, the theories are analyzed. Now I will take you to another example, right, where if you look at this, okay, you can see the topic is impact of advertising effectiveness on purchasing behavior with respect to Anchorpedia Pro. And I had a look at this yesterday also when I discussed with you about, say, choosing a research topic based on literature. Okay, so it has again a connection here as well. So if you look at the, say, the specific theories that are being used here, you can see this is one model that comes under marketing communication like this you have. So then you look at how you can analyze these theories. So you can see the main headings here, right? What you find in columns, you find 7 different theories. And you have here in the rows the different say sections that are being found, or the key elements that are found in the theory. So you find awareness, and you find awareness has been indicated in all these theories. Then you have knowledge, interest, comprehension discussed in all, say some of the theories say here, and some of the theories. Then you have desire, attitude, liking, preference. You find when IDA model says desire, then this model says attitude, but you find they have some similar meanings. Say liking, preference, desire, they're all much similar. Then you have conviction. You find here, say, if you look at hierarchy of effects model and also the communication effect model, you find these two models cover most of the elements. Okay. However, this student has chosen this model because in this particular say study, conviction was found to be a key element, because you can see now, say when these mothers who have children below 5 years, when they seek advice from a pediatrician, quite often say they ask for a good brand of milk powder. So there you see the conviction through the pediatrician. Plus they get some kind of so it's convincing, okay, this is a good brand, likewise. And then they are, sorry?
But conviction is included in other two hierarchy of effects and.
Yeah, if you see this one, yeah, it's here, it's here, it's there. Can you see this model? Say the rest of the details are not many. Okay, if you look at this model, right? Again, this has somewhat similarity with this. Okay. And this doesn't have conviction here, right? So based on that argument, she has developed the conceptual framework based on the hierarchy of effects model. Understand? So when you see the arrows backward, that means advertising effectiveness is being measured through these. Clear?
Clear.
Right? It's not to say that this affects this and this affects this. Okay? Right?
Yeah.
So again, the analysis of the theoretical models you can see. Right? Now, I'll take you to another example. Okay. This again I looked at in the last class also. Now see here, right? How the literature starts. Okay, I said first try to give definitions of the keywords, and how say the topics organized in the literature also should be considered. So here, first of all, the concept of experience is given. Then what do you mean by consumer experience? Okay. And then you can see a comparison between traditional marketing and experiential marketing, because you're looking at experiential marketing here. So you have to say how it differs from traditional marketing. Okay. And then you look at the theoretical models. All right. And then you analyze the theoretical models like this to identify the factors that you should consider, and then say you make your comparisons and discussions, and likewise, right? This is about the dependent variable, the post-purchase intention, and then you have your conceptual framework, whereas these factors are all developed based on the analysis of the theoretical models. Okay. Now, if you look at empirical findings, how do you think you can connect them here? Because in my discussion up to this point, I have only looked at the analysis of theoretical models, and I said there is another part called empirical findings. Okay. What you can do here is, okay, you can pull out these factors from the analysis of theories, and then you can have a separate section for empirical findings and look for journal articles where you find how experiential marketing is practiced in restaurants. Okay, right? Because you're looking at the restaurant industry. So how can restaurants look at look forward to give a good experience to their customers in what ways, and then see whether you can find these components are there in those journal articles, and then organize your literature under these headings itself, saying how restaurants have applied this experiential marketing concept. Okay, that's the way that you can do. I will take another example to explain that part in more detail. Okay, I looked at this yesterday, if you remember, about millennials purchasing behavior. Now here, I'm just showing you how the student has, presented the research proposal for this. So can you tell me what you can write here as a background? Are you there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear.
Yeah. I can only hear one voice. Are the others not there in the class? Are the others there?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Why you all are not responding with me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay, good. So I would like you all to be more interactive and discuss. Okay, right. So if you can look at this topic, okay, in the background, right, you can write You can see here, this student has written, this is only the research proposal, not the dissertation. So he has written the life insurance industry and how it has developed, right? And then you can see you say give a small hint kind of. It says while penetration has slowed down during the past decade, the emergence of millennial generation is considered a challenge that is further hindering the growth of life insurance industry in Sri Lanka. Okay, so you're just giving a nice say entry to your discussion about millennial generation in this research. So this is kind of a very nice transition to the next topic without just entering it. You give a nice entry with a transition. So then you talk about, okay, who are this millennial generation, and then what specific things you have found about them. So now here you can see you're having, say, your evidence to support the problem. Why do you say that their penetration has not been so good, and why do you think it is a problem in selling life insurance to millennials? So like that you discuss, that's your research problem. Then you can see the objectives.
Hello. We cannot hear you. Hello. Hello.
Yeah, we cannot hear the lecturer, no?
Yeah, yeah. Is Gandhi?
Yeah, yeah. Uh,
I'll send a message.
hello.
Hello. Mm.
The coordinator too is not there, no?
I cannot see her.
Yesterday she was here.
The I person. The Vidyadhani.
Yeah. Shall I call her?
Yeah, it's better, I think.
Okay, I'll call her. Hello? Hello?
I think she left the meeting.
Uh-huh.
I found what her name?
Vidya,
Vidyadhini, but she is not answering the phone.
can you send the message to Sakuntala?
Okay. Okay, she is not answering the phone.
Oh,
Okay. Is it only two of us here?
I think Musa is here and Sachitra. They already
Okay.
muted.
Okay.
And some Udeni also here. Only four or five. Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh,
Don't know what to do. Are you contacting Sakuntala?
I'm trying to. Because she asked last time not to call her, just
Hello? Hello?
she asked not to call her but send her text message. Sakuntala.
Hello? Hello?
Okay, we can hear you.
Yeah, there was an interruption with the power connection, so my internet went off.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, Yola, okay, do you want a few minutes break?
Okay, it's better.
Better, okay. have about 15 minutes break and come, I'll continue. Okay.
Okay. Fine.
විද්‍යාව මේ normally මේකේ interaction එකක් power එකක් දැන් ආයෙ කරනවා. මේ break එකක් දෙනවා stop recording කරලා ආයෙ පටන් ගන්නවා.